The main message I take away from my interview with Wil Stubenberg is this. If you're good at many things, maybe you don't have to choose one. You can do them all over the course of your life. In over 45 years, he became a restaurateur, working artist, resort manager, private chef, and today estate manager and personal assistant. Here's Wil's own story.
Hi, my name is Wil Stubenberg. I live in Beverly Hills, California. I'm a personal assistant and estate manager to two old business partners. One's a producer and one is a director and actor and writer.
So you are now in California, you're managing the estate. And what does it mean that you're, as a manager, like estate manager, what do you do on a daily basis?
I organize appointments for plumbers and carpenters and roofers because there's always something wrong. It's like you're trying to take care of a giant yacht. And I take care of three of the estates. They actually own 11 estates between them. So I take care of three that are here in Beverly Hills.
So it's about making sure basically that everything runs smoothly.
Everything runs because if they're old estates and there's always problems, and so I kind of run all the make sure that nothing leaks and electricity is working, or there's always you always have to get a plumber out to rotor the pipes because the roots get in and clog everything up, and so it's constant maintenance.
Okay. And then, I mean, like anybody hearing the story right now would think, oh, it's easy. I'm going to also be an estate manager. But how do you actually land a job like this? You must have a good network. It's not easy to work for Hollywood, or at least for the, celebrities.
No, because they're all very entitled. And most of them, don't ever want to spend a dime on anything. They're difficult people to work with. But if you show that you are, you can be trusted, just honesty, being straightforward, even if you tell them bad news, you have to tell them bad news. And then they yell at you. I said, don't yell at the messenger. You just have to persevere and be, make sure that that they have an ally. They feel like you're loyal, you're an ally, and, you can be trusted. So now I was basically started just taking care of, one place, and then I ended up taking care of three places now. But I'm also Roger Cameras, his personal assistant, because he's getting a little bit older, and he's got all these, legal issues he's always dealing with. And so I'm basically his personal assistant. Take photographs of things, email, do a lot of computer work for him.
Do you also get to cook for them? Because in your previous life, you were also a caterer and personal chef.
Maybe once a month, I'll make a big dinner for Roger, and he's basically likes prime rib or steaks and stuff. I'll make him nice pasta dinners, or some nice big thing he can take home and he can eat for a couple of days. He likes that.
Talking about reinventing yourself, you were that's because I know your history. For 42 years, you were in the food business. And so that has very little or nothing to do with the estate management, which has been more like the last few years of your life. How did you start your food business? What did you do?
I was managing a hotel in San Francisco in the 80s. And I'd get off work, come back around 6 o'clock in the evening. And my roommate had a small social catering business. And he was getting ready to go out to do a dinner party, a sit-down dinner for maybe, 12 people. And I'd come home, I'm kind of tired, and I just want to sit around and have a beer and, watch TV. And he said, well, instead of doing that, why don't you come out and wash dishes and help me? I'll pay you $5 an hour. And I said, okay, I'll do that. So, so then that means I get back around, midnight, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning after everything's done. And I'm tired, but I made a little extra money. So I kept doing that. I kind of liked that. And he was a chef, and he and I started picking up on things, and I started, doing the prep work. And then all of a sudden I'm cooking, and all of a sudden, I'm going out on parties and doing everything by myself. So I just kind of learned from ground up. I learned how to cook, and I became, not really good at it. Took some lessons here and there. And when I see something that's interesting and I can, make a little bit of money, I'll try. I'll say, hey, I'll learn that, and I just will do it. And I got quite good at it. And one thing led to another. Somebody in San Francisco heard that I was a really good chef, and they were working on a movie, so they said, hey, we need a chef to help, because we've got 200 extras. So I said, well, okay, I'll try that. And so that started my motion picture catering career. And it was kind of by accident, but it worked. And all of a sudden I was invited to do other movies, but now they were down in Los Angeles. So I had to move from San Francisco down to Los Angeles. And a funny side note, my first movie was a movie with Robert Downey Jr. and James Wood called True Believer. And I was shot in San Francisco. That was my first movie. So I did motion picture catering for, I don't know, about 10, 12 years or something. All sorts of movies. I mean, probably 30 movies or something. And lots of music videos, lots of TV commercials, and lots of TV shows. And then my last movie I ever did was called Due Date. And of all people, it was Robert Downey Jr.
How did you find the motion picture catering as opposed to, managing a restaurant?
Extremely difficult.
More difficult than owning a restaurant?
Owning a restaurant can be really, really fun. Like my last two restaurants, I mean, I just had the best time. I had a great crew. I had great employees. I mean, everything was really fun, and it was a very popular restaurant. It was actually an Asian restaurant. I taught myself how to cook Asian food, and because I was really tired of eating, bad Asian food, like mystery sauce and weird meat, and it always made me feel too bloated at the end. It was full of MSG or something, and I thought, why can't we just have clean, healthy Asian food? So I taught myself how to make really good, clean, healthy Asian food. I made everything from scratch, made all of my own sauces. And I only had the really good cuts of meats, and I did vegan. I did all sorts of fun stuff. And it was those are the last two restaurants were in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and so I did a little bit of kind of Southeast or Southwest mixed with Southeast Asian. Before Korean tacos came out, which became very famous down in Los Angeles. I was doing them, 6-7 years before they were doing it here. But I would do Asian tacos basically. And everybody they'd come back the next day and say, I had dreams of these tacos. I want more.
Oh, that was successful. And so then restaurant and then being a personal chef, I would imagine, not knowing any of this, that, just working for one actor or one small crew would be easier than actually managing a whole restaurant. So why did you find it difficult?
Because the personalities involved. And usually a movie crew would consist of between maybe 80 to 120 people. You're cooking for 80 to 120 people. Sometimes it was, 600 people once in a while. But you're dealing with really big egos. The people aren't very nice. And I'll tell you, being a motion picture caterer, you're kind of at the bottom of the the list
chain.
of people. Yeah, you're the caterer. It's like everybody expects you to jump when they bark at you.
Yeah, yeah.
And rarely you get credits in the movies. They'll say caterer, the company name.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll say, chef, but nobody really cares. And so you're really at the bottom. But, it can be really fun and interesting. And I got a lot of outside work out of it because a lot of movie stars really liked my cooking. And so they would they would say, hey, can you come and cook for me, for a month if you're not doing a movie? And I say, sure. Like I was Tom Cruise's personal chef. I was Harrison Ford's personal chef, Steven Spielberg, Sylvester Stallone. Most of the really famous big actors are very, very nice people. Very nice. It's usually, a lot of the up and coming people that think they're, they're already the great movie star, but they've just come on the scene, and all of a sudden they think they're, God's gift to everybody, and so they can be a little bit difficult to work with.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I had a similar experience in my own, production life, but it seems that you do have a very good sense of service and understanding, what to say and how to handle very complex personalities, let's say. And this seems to be across the careers that you've made, because you've had many careers, and it seems that you're still reinventing yourself, and God knows what's going to be next, right? Which is great. I really admire you. It's great, because it shows that we can always start something new, no matter when during our lives. And you actually have even been a sculptor.
Yeah, I a sculpture.
Yeah.
I was a working artist, meaning my artwork actually provided me with a very good living, so I didn't have to have a second job.
Which in itself is it's a great achievement.
It's really, really wonderful to create something out of nothing and then sell it and pay the bills. It's amazing. And I bought my first house that way.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, and the house was one of these mid-century modern homes in Sacramento. And then I remodeled the house. And I was also, because I was in this art world, I collected a lot of art. And so I have this big, giant, vast art collection. And so I did the interior of the house and made it beautiful. And the local Sacramento Bee newspaper, one of the ladies who works there, she came over to the house for a party, and she said, oh, I've got to write a story on this house. And she hired a photographer, and she wrote this wonderful story about me being this artist and designing this house and my art career and stuff. And then so there was a story in it. And then I went to a very, very big show in Baltimore, Maryland. And I had the newspaper out of me on the cover of the newspaper, and this lady who ran this, she's the editor of this very big national art magazine, big glossy art magazine, and she said, "My God, I want to do a story just like this." And so we redid it. We did the photo shoot and did another big story, and all of a sudden, 4 months later, it comes out, and I'm walking through the airport in Atlanta, and I go by the newsstand, and there's me on the cover of this national magazine. I was like, wow. I thought it was going to be a little story in the back, but they put me on the cover.
It seems that over the course of your life, a lot of things have happened sort of organically that kind of landed onto your laps, and things happened, or you were in the right place at the right time. I wonder, what did you study, and did you have any idea where your life would be taking you? I mean, did you have a clear idea when you were young of what you would do?
Not in the least. I was completely confused. I went to Santa Barbara City College after high school, and then I went to University of California, Santa Barbara, but I only stayed for 2 semesters, and I tried to get guidance from the counselors, and nobody knew what to say, or I couldn't get any direction. And I was lost. I was just drifting. And I was studying, I was an economics major and political science. But I always took art classes because I was always a painter when I was young in high school. So I always had my finger in the art world somewhat. So then I just didn't know where to go. I had no idea. But Santa Barbara was beautiful. But all of a sudden, my brother-in-law or my sister said, hey, why don't you come out to Chicago? Because she was living in Chicago. And so I said, okay. So I moved to Chicago, and I got a job at the Chicago Board of Trade in commodities futures trading. I worked right on the floor of the Board of Trade, and it was amazing. It's like, it's like the stock market, but we deal in commodities like wheat and corn, soybeans, and it was absolutely, to me, it was the center of the universe. But it was I couldn't see myself, doing this for a career. And my brother was working at Club Med in Martinique. And he says, hey, if you got a couple of weeks off, I can give you 2 weeks of free Club Med. All you have to do is get from Chicago to New York, pay that airfare, and then I'll get you on the charter down to Martinique. And I said, okay. And so I went down to Martinique and I said, I want to do this. I want to be a GO. Gentil Organisateur. And because they're all, everybody's running around in their little French bikinis and they're all tan and everybody's, sauvage and, and I'm
was
like, wow. And I'm all pasty white from Chicago.
Yeah. How old were you back then?
I think I was about 23 or 4. And then my brother said, hey, I can get you a job. You have to move to Eleuthera, Bahamas, at the Club Med in Eleuthera. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I quit my job at the Chicago Board of Trade, downtown Chicago. And all of a sudden, I go down to the Bahamas and I become a GO.
No way.
When they say, well, what can you do? And I say, I can sail on this. I've been sailing since I was a little kid. And first they made me land sport director of sport terrestre, land sports, whatever that means. But I took people out on jogging trips around the beach and stuff, and frisbee and softball and stupid stuff like that. It was kind of boring. I wanted to get in the water, and so they said, well, we have an opening for a sailing instructor. I said, I'm your guy. Let's do it. So I became a sailing instructor, and then I got a contract. And they sent me to, after I was finished with the Bahamas, and they sent me to the west coast of Mexico, Playa Blanca, Mexico, about an hour and a half south of Puerto Vallarta. First of all, I couldn't speak Spanish. I'd never been to Mexico. I had no interest in going to Mexico. I got down there and I was in heaven.
You
Absolute heaven. Fell in love. And they made me the chief of snorkeling.
Okay.
Snorkeling.
Chief of snorkeling.
But by doing that, I learned how to free dive. And I actually held a Club Med record for the deepest dive on, just with one breath of air. This is at that time. At that time, free diving, nobody knew it. It was kind of, if you didn't know what you're doing, you're probably going to die doing it. But I just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. And I had this big giant boat that, I was, running the whole boat. And then, we'd put the depth gauge on and they'd see how deep it was. And so one day I actually made it down to 135 feet. And that was my record.
Congratulations. Actually, we could go on and on like this, but talking about all your adventures forever. Do you have anything planned for the future? Like, do you see anything else coming up?
The only thing I really want to do is get back to the islands. And I mentioned to you before, I was down in the Turks and Caicos. I've always been down in the Caribbean, and I'm from Honolulu originally. So I've always been growing up around the beaches and a little anecdote going back from I was born in Hawaii, and my family has been there for 100 years, a little over 100 years. But when I was 3 years old or 2 years old, my parents got a divorce, and my mom took the kids, and we ended up in Paris and then London, and then we finally ended up in Norway, where my mom raised us as Norwegian. We went to Norwegian schools.
No way. Hence Stubenberg.
Yeah, right. No, we had no connection to Norway whatsoever. My mom we went there to go there for like a week just for vacation to see what it was like. Because we were living in London, and London was foggy. My mom didn't like it. She was miserable, and it was cold and dark, and And she goes, let's get in. She saw a poster in the window of a travel agency. It said, come to Norway. And it said blue sky and some handsome blonde guy jumping over a house, and she goes, okay, let's go to Norway. So we got on a steamship from what's that, northern port city. But anyway, and so we ended at Newcastle, left Newcastle, and it was like an overnight journey, and we ended up in Oslo. And my mom got off the ship and she said, we're home. This is where we're going to live. She immediately fell in love with it. And then we actually moved to a little ski village, Geilo, up north of Oslo, and lived there. And it was wonderful, absolutely magical place to grow up.
Oh, fantastic.
In my first language.
And your first language? Oh.
Yeah, jeg snakker norsk.
Thank you, Wil. That's been very, very entertaining. A very filled life of surprises and things coming on your way that you probably didn't even think were possible, and that's what life is about. Is there any lesson you've learned that others would like to hear?
Be honest, always speak the truth, and enjoy other cultures. I love other cultures. I think that's what makes the whole world go around. And I'm completely confused at how people, especially in the United States these days, are so cultural differences. I think you embrace them. You embrace the food, the art, the language, everything.
It's very enriching, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that each of us creates his own professional reality. We're often molded by what the educational system expects from us. We don't take risks, as it is a scary process. But what if we did take one risk? And what if it did pay off and enriched us for, say, 1 year, 2 years, or maybe a lifetime? Food for thought.